Yes, good afternoon. Savva here from Football Heritage TV, joined once again for a weekly episode with Charlie from Blue Brother Chelsea Football Club. Charlie, how are you, mate?
Yeah, mate, I'm doing good. Just trying to survive the London heat. Kind of a bit of a mad one at the moment, even though we're in September. But yeah, I'm
Yes.
good. I'm good, mate. I know I'm not a massive fan of the international break, but even after 4 games, it's quite nice to have a little break from Chelsea with things not going as well as I was expecting. But no, I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I hate the international break. I think a lot of people do. I think when you, as we said just off screen, when you look across all the YouTube channels, all the numbers are down on all shows. I think people want to talk about the Premier League games. They want the action. They want the Champions League. I'm not sure if the appetite is there anymore that it was for International Week. But look, let's talk Premier League football. A lot has happened. I'm not going to start with Tottenham or Chelsea because I feel like it's the obvious thing to do. There has been a lot of up and downs already. Newcastle were amazing. They were going to win the league after game one when they battered Villa, who were dreadful after game one. Newcastle have now lost all 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
Brighton were the worst team in the world when they lost to West Ham. They've now won 3 of their 4 games. Liverpool, dead and buried. Awful transfer window. Can't get the players they want in. Haven't lost for 16 Premier League games, and have got 10 points from 12. And Tottenham were dead. We were buried. We were finished. Harry Kane's left. We've got 10 points from 12. It's been a really, really strange 4 opening games to the Premier League season, hasn't it?
No, absolutely has, mate. I mean, maybe I lost to West Ham, not looking so bad right now. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, no, it's been interesting, mate. You know, this is why it's always so important for people not to come. And I think it's just like a modern day thing now, particularly online as well, where people are so quick to write off teams and players after one 1 or 2 games. As you were saying, Brighton are going to be terrible this season. They've now won subsequent 3 games since they lost or whatever. You know, same people like Newcastle are going to be great this season. They've had a tricky start. Fishers haven't been great, but they're not a bad team. So, do you know what I mean? Like, for me, I always say that you can't really take an accurate view of the table until minimum 10, 12 games have kind of been played. That's for me, that's when sort of things start to sort of, show. That's when the table kind of shows its hand, as it were. Like, after that many games, you get more of an accurate representation. Do you know what I mean? So look, there's been some interesting results. I'll be honest, mate. I was bigging up Aston Villa before the season. It is only 4 games, but I've been a bit disappointed with their performances, particularly away from home. For the way they've seemingly folded in games. You know, Liverpool on Sunday. I'm not saying they should have gone and won that game, but it was quite easy for Liverpool. I'm a little bit unsure on Villa's and how Villa are setting up, particularly away from it. At Villa Park, they're decent. You know, they've picked up some good results there, but I've been a bit concerned about how they've done on the road so far. I mean, Newcastle obviously haven't started the way they wanted to start. West Ham have surprised people. Spurs, I think, have surprised people as well. In the nicest way possible. Don't think people expected Spurs to be playing this good a brand of football in the opening 4 games. But look, the usual suspects are there or thereabouts. I mean, 10 points on your opening 4 games is pretty good. Even 9 points is not bad going. So
yeah.
But do you know what as well, mate? I think there's been some really great matches as well. Not just involving our own teams, but do you know what I mean? I think there's been some really good football matches across the board in the league so far this season. I think this could be, maybe not for the title necessarily, but this could be one of the best seasons in terms of everything else.
Yeah, look, it's certainly very interesting. I mean, look, let's have a look at it. I mean, there is the table. I think everyone can see that. Really worrying. I say it's worrying for everyone else. I think anyone that predicted anyone other than Man City to win it, I feel like really is just clutching at straws. The worrying thing I was going to say is Man City don't normally start like a house on fire. They normally drop 2 of their first few games, and by now they've normally got about 7 or 8 points. This year, played 4, won 4, scored 11. Let's be fair, they've conceded from a corner, and they've conceded from a dodgy back heel from Kyle Walker against his hometown club. Tottenham, Liverpool, West Ham, Arsenal, all with 10, Brighton with 9, and then Palace with 7. But the interesting thing you mentioned there was Aston Villa. And Villa, as far as I can see so far, have played 2 away games. Newcastle got smashed. Liverpool got smashed. But then at home have won both games quite comfortably as well. So, I would probably have Villa as there or thereabouts, where I think they're going to be in the top 7 or 8. I do. I think they've got enough firepower, and I think they'll probably pick off all the bad teams. But Crystal Palace with a decent start there.
Yeah.
2 wins and a draw and a defeat, plus 1 goal difference. Palace doing some nice little bits early on.
Yeah, mate, they are. Big Uncle Roy's still got it, hasn't he? In his 70s, still doing a bit. Remember they've obviously lost. I was about to say Louis Zaha, then Wilfried Zaha. Sorry, they've lost Zaha to Galatasaray. Everyone thought that was going to be like a big loss for them. But do you know what I mean? Like, so the same with Tottenham. I've always said, right, when teams are so reliant on one player, and people think it's a bit of a strange opinion kind of thing, but they're not saying they don't miss those players, but they're actually a better overall team without them because they're not relying on that player to step up and deliver. They're
Sure.
like, you know what I mean? It brings an extra level on from everyone else because normally, I'm sure you might agree as well, mate, that maybe at Tottenham or at Palace as well, players are like, oh, well, Zaha will just do it or Kane will do it rather than stepping up themselves. When those guys leave, it requires everyone else to step up. And I think that's what you're seeing at Palace, that not everything's going through Zaha now. Eze, I think, is a fantastic player. Obviously brought in the kid Franca. Do you know what I mean? There's some Rob Holding at the back now. Do you know? Like, I'm not saying they're going to be a top half side, but Palace are going to be like half decent. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think for them, maybe losing Zaha, not having the conversation about will he stay, won't he stay, and all that sort of thing. I think that can be more beneficial for him. And it's kind of funny how it works out where other players step up, and it's more of a team game when sort of your main man's gone, as it were.
Yeah, do you know what? This is the funny thing. And this is where I'm always in trouble with fans because I call people out. And I think so many football fans are knee-jerk. Yeah. Everything changes. The next weekend's results of games will change everyone's opinion again as to how good a team is, how bad a team is, who's going to get promoted, who's going to win the league, who's getting relegated, who's Champions League favourites. Man City, if Man City lose their next game, it'll be, they're not the same as last year. If they win it, oh my God, 5 wins from 5. But you're right. The Harry Kane piece was funny because, and big up to all the Spurs fans inside the house, so many Spurs fans I saw talking about, oh my God, if Kane leaves, we'll get relegated. And I'm thinking, there are a lot worse teams at Tottenham Hotspur. Like, why would we get relegated? But no, we're getting relegated. We're going to finish below Luton. And what? Like, it's just mad. And I make you right. Now Spurs don't rely on Harry Kane. Now Sonny's chipping in. Maddison's chipping in. Yeah. Basuma, Sarr, the doggy, Porro, all of these players. Romero's grabbed a couple of goals. The whole team is chipping in.
It's the same with Palace, mate, as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's weird how it works out. No one's saying that Tottenham don't miss Harry Kane. Of course you do when you take 30 goals a season out of a team. But as I was saying, do you know what I mean? It requires everyone else to step up, and it requires the players to perform more as a team, more as a collective unit. And I actually think Spurs, as a collective, are better without Harry Kane. You saw it at times last season, or maybe the season before, when he usually picked up his customary ankle injury. And Spurs, everyone thought, Spurs are going to be crap, not going to pick up any points whilst Kane's out injured. I actually think they play better football when he doesn't play. I know that might be unpopular, or people might think, what's he on about? But do you know what I mean? Son, I think, is now flourishing off that extra responsibility. He's a captain now. He's almost, I'm not saying he's the go-to guy, but he's kind of the main man now, as it were. Obviously not in the same sense that Kane was the main man, but that extra responsibility, playing down the middle. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think Kane leaving Spurs is probably, in a really odd way, is actually probably a really good thing for Tottenham right now. And that might sound really weird, mate, but I don't know if you get what I mean. But I think for the team going forward, I think it's a good thing for him.
I completely agree. Sometimes, listen, you've got the sum of the parts. So what is it that, the sum of the parts must be greater than the biggest wheel or the biggest cog. And unfortunately, Spurs for years have been Harry Kane, Harry Kane, Harry Kane. And this is why when the noises first came out that Bayern Munich were interested, and you knew that his agent must have talked to them. Like, do you know what I mean? Bayern Munich would not be bidding for Harry Kane if his people hadn't have said, yeah, you know what, he fancies it. And what a lot of fans did, I get it. It's denial. It's that kind of, I can't be hurt if I don't know. They dug their head in the sands and said, no, Kane won't go there. No, Bayern Munich are rubbish. The German league's rubbish. Kane would rather win things at Spurs. But I think for those that realised he was going, actually started looking ahead to, okay, we're now going to have to play a different way. We can't now have a bad game and say, don't worry, Kane will do something. And that's what we're seeing. The whole 11 at the moment at Tottenham. They look united. They look like they all want to get in on the act. And I don't think there's listen, I think James Maddison's our best player, but I don't think there's a standout man there. I don't think there's one person that you go, this is the be-all and end-all.
But everyone's chipping in, everyone's doing their bit. Whereas before you could say maybe they weren't, and it's just like, oh, Harry will get us out of trouble because he always does. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's the same. I think it's the same for a lot of teams. Palace as well. West Ham. Look, obviously West Ham has started well. It's too early to say, but again, it looks like them losing Declan Rice, obviously a blow, of course, but actually might be better for them. In the long run, that's going to be better for West Ham. Look at the way they spent that money, the way those new players have settled in.
Is it a blow for them?
I don't know if it is.
No. I get it, right? Listen, you know what? It's not like you've taken a 30-goal-a-season striker out of them. No. You've taken a midfielder. Don't get me wrong. He's a very good midfielder. But, I mean, when you look at what they've done with that money, with Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, Kudus, and Mavropanos, I know which four. Would I rather Declan Rice or those four?
Mate, they spent the money really well as well. That's the thing. It's all very well getting the money, but you got to give credit where it's due. You got to spend that money right. You know, we both know that our teams have been reckless and misspent money in the past. West Ham, so far, it looks like they've got they've spent well. James Ward-Prowse, I remember at William Hill got a bit of stick for saying he weren't that great, but he's actually, I think he's a decent level player, someone that will do well at West Ham. Edson Alvarez, Champions League quality. You know, he's a decent player as well. Kudus is a real result for West Ham. I didn't expect a club of West Ham's caliber, in fairness, to be able to get someone like Kudus. That's going to be massive for them. You know, players like Kurt Zouma at the back are decent. You know, they've got good footballers. So yeah, I think there's something in it to be said about. Yes, you're going to miss your best player if they leave, but actually, as a team, you're probably going to end up being better off.
Yeah, I mean, this is someone put in the chat about the Ewing theory. So I went and looked, and the Ewing theory is a sports theory that states that a team can play better without their star player. The theory was created by Dave Cirilli. Sorry, that's really small on my screen. In the mid-90s and popularized by Bill Simmons in the early 2000s. The theory has two main tenets. A team plays better with their star player when their star player is injured or on the bench, and a team reaches new heights immediately following the departure of a star player. The theory has been proven across all sports, including basketball, baseball, football, and hockey. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? It really is interesting because I agree with that, but that's not me saying, oh my God, look, Spurs are better because Harry Kane's not here. I think we're better. I forget that it's Harry Kane. I think Spurs are better because we're not relying on one man. I think that's the difference between having a dig at Kane and actually the ethos here. But look, I think it will work well for West Ham. I don't think they'll be anywhere near as bad as they were last year in the league. I'm not saying they didn't win a European trophy, which we won't hear the end of for years to come. But yeah, listen, I think that if you look at for example, if you look at Man City, I'll ask this question. If you look at Man City for the last 7 years since Pep Guardiola's been there, they've had quality players for sure, right? But there isn't one man that you'd say, without that one man, it all falls apart.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't, does it? They never fall apart without De Bruyne out. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, they are right now, aren't they? You know, they put up one of their best starts in a while. You know, everyone was like, oh, they're never going to be able to replace Sergio Aguero. Oh, City going to be finished when Aguero leaves and whatnot. Pep saying, oh, we cannot replace him. Go and buy Haaland. Doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, City going to be one of those teams because it's such a well-oiled machine. It almost doesn't matter what person you drop into that team. As long as they know the system and they know their job, they're going to perform. And that's what I mean. And that's why as well, I mean, slight tangent, but do you know what I mean? That's why when new players go to Man City and they don't hit the ground running straight away, it doesn't really get noticed or bought up because the team's winning and the team's doing well. That's why that's why as a new player, like it's not bad going to City because, you know, like if you don't start that well, you're not going to get much stick because the team's doing well, so no one really picks up on it.
Yeah,
like,
if Doku has a nightmare for 3 or 4 games on the right wing, no one's going to be going, oh my God, Jeremy Doku. Well, they're going to go, Man City have played 8, won 8.
Well, like, mate, imagine, look, Grealish, right? I'm a massive Grealish fan. First season wasn't great. If Grealish had gone to, let's say, Chelsea, or Grealish had gone to a Tottenham or something, right? Yeah. And he performed how he did in that first year at City,
Right.
he'd be getting pelters and being called a massive flop. But he's not, because when you join a winning team, people overlook sort of players struggling because the team's doing well and they're winning stuff. So, do you know what I mean? Like, it's much easier as a new player to go into a team that's doing well.
Yeah, listen, I completely agree with you. By the way, just really, really quickly, people, come on. There's over 200 of you in here at the moment. Only 48 likes. Come on, that's a 25% ratio.
Guys, that's poor. Come on.
Really, really poor. And guys, we are 80 away. 80 from 11K. 80. I'm sure there must be a few of you, even if there's 4 or 5. Smash that subscribe button. The link's in the chat, and subscribe to my brother Charlie here. Get him up. Listen, it's a great point, and I truly believe now that the days of having a superstar are slowly going to go. You could say about Messi and Ronaldo at Real Madrid and Barca, but let's be brutally honest, it wasn't like the 10 players that they were playing with were chumps.
Yeah, the supporting cast weren't bad, were they? Let's be honest.
Yeah. When you've got Cruz, Modric, and Casemiro, or Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets as your supporting cast,
yeah, you're all right, aren't you?
Yeah, Benzema, Pedro, Villa. Yeah, it was all right.
Especially if you go through the Premier League, right? Like just rough at the top of your head. There's not many teams that have got like what you'd say as a star man in their team. Do you know what I mean? Like someone like a big superstar name that you think like Tottenham with Kane, for example. I mean, even if you took Haaland out of City, they're still going to win games. But do you know what I mean? Like Haaland, Kane's. But if you go through the teams, like there's not very many what you might describe as star players.
I mean, yeah, the closest I can think of it, but not really. I would say Mo Salah at Liverpool. I still fancy that if Mo Salah didn't play and one of their other 5 forwards did,
still win.
That they'd still win games, right?
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool will still finish in the Champions League places without Mo Salah because of the quality they've got. So,
I agree.
Like, I'm not diminishing Salah's like ability or whatever, but Liverpool, whether they have Mo Salah or not, are going to finish in the top. Are going to finish in the top 4 or 5 places. That won't be an issue. But it is interesting. I think it's right as well, though, mate. That the superstar era, or the sort of the era of having one sort of star man, I think it is dying out a little bit.
No, I agree with you. And listen, I think that the days of an 11 have gone. Right. And I think that's the thing. When you've got squads, listen, there will always be players that play week in, week out. So most players go to Man City and you know that you're not going to play 38 Premier League games all 90 minutes. You know you're not. But there are players that you know will. Rodri, if he's fit, Rodri plays every single game for Man City. Let's be fair, De Bruyne's not even in that bracket anymore. I know he's injured now, but De Bruyne has got to the stage now in his Man City career where he's not guaranteed to play every game. Yeah. Mahrez, how many teams in the world would have cried out for Mahrez as one of their forwards? He wasn't guaranteed a game.
Man, his numbers were decent as well.
Exactly.
Big numbers for someone that was a rotational player.
Yeah. Foden is one of the most gifted English players I think I've ever seen. He isn't guaranteed a game. No. And I think that's the way that football's gone now. Let's talk about, just quickly before I do, Siraj, big up to you, my friend. I said, I fear James Maddison, I reckon, will be overplayed when he is the only one pulling the strings, with the same issue when Kane had to start all the games. I think the difference you've got now is Maddison's going to be playing a game once every 7 days. So even if Maddison picks up a little knock like he did the other week, he's now got 7 days to recover, not 2 days, then we're flying, then we're training, then we're playing, then we're flying back, then we're training once and playing again. I think that's the difference. Listen, any player can get injured at any time. Yeah. But listen, I agree with you. Maddison, for me, is the star player. And just before we move on from Spurs,
watching it. I love watching him play, mate. Honestly, like I don't want to say disappointed. Well, I was disappointed that, we didn't go in for him or whatever. Sort of some reports coming out saying that, Chelsea decided not to sign him because he was over 25 or whatever. I don't know how true they are or not. But I'll be honest, mate. I'm surprised, no disrespect to Tottenham, but I'm surprised that, well, at least publicly, maybe privately there were, but at 40 million quid, no bigger teams were looking at him. I find that really odd for someone of his quality and his ability and how good he is and how much potential he's got to be even better. I can't believe it's almost for a top side. It's almost a no-brainer signing. I'm really surprised that no bigger teams come in for him, or at least some other big sides weren't competing with you for his signature.
I would just say this. I would say this. How many teams play that kind of out and out number 10?
Yeah.
And I think this is the difficulty. For me, James Maddison is everything that Tottenham haven't had, Charlie, since Eriksen left.
Yeah, well, he's Eriksen replacement, isn't he? Finally.
5 years later, yeah. It's like my wife leaving me, and then 5 years later, I suddenly find another girlfriend or something. You know what I mean? Sorry if you're watching, Miss Savva. I'm never going to say her name on stream. But maybe she doesn't exist. Who knows? Maybe I'm lying. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not. I haven't got a wedding ring on. Maybe I'm lying. But by the way, no, that's just indoors. I never wear rings before anyone has a go at me. Look, I think the difficulty is when you look at the way a Liverpool play. Klopp plays
10.
with 3 midfielders, no 10, 3 forwards. You look at Man City. Man City rotate completely. Would they have needed him? Newcastle don't particularly play with a 10
Mate,
either.
the 10, talking of like the 10's dying out as well. Like the modern, like the number, like because there used to be so many number 10s, like, you know, back in the day, as it were, like when you were talking about Mesut Ozils and stuff being like a standout 10. Not many teams actually play a 10 now. There's more to Maddison's game than just playing a 10. He can play wide and drift in, you know. He's not shoehorned into a 10. I think he probably played deeper as a number 8 as well. But that number 10 is his best position. But as you say, mate, it is true. Not many teams play a 10. I mean, we're looking at trying to play a 10 now once Nkunku comes back from injury. But yeah, mate, the number 10 is not as big as in football as it used to be.
Yeah, it's gone. And you know what? I'm so glad that Spurs, I say Spurs, I'm so glad that Big Ange Postecoglou is bringing it back. Listen, we've needed him. I'm not saying that he just sits in the number 10 hole. He floats out wide. He drops deep. But let's be fair. That's the guy you get the ball to. He's your creator. And for me, I'm not being biased. You know me. I'm not a biased fan. I've got to say at the moment, he's looking like one of the buys of the window.
Oh, mate. As soon as he was signed, mate, 40 million quid. Like, there's no guarantees of any transfers. But James Maddison performing in the Premier League is as close to a guarantee as you can get. I don't think people realise how good this guy is. He's class, and like he's got to play for England more. There has to be a way to get him into that team on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Big boss man, yeah, KDB quite injury prone, yeah, for sure, absolutely. Hence why Man City have got a lot of players to cover that. El Dante, channel member, said, "Big up, Savva. Hope all is good with you and all others here. All is good with me. All good with you, Charlie?
Mate, all good, all good."
All good, other than all those disgusting shirts behind Charlie's shoulder.
Oh,
all
mate,
good.
A couple of legends on the back there.
Talking about shirts, I should probably I should probably plug this. So we've got the 24-hour live charity stream for the British Heart Foundation on Saturday midday through to Sunday midday, and the wife did buy this from the official club shop, which I won't spend my money with, but her money is not my money. She's bought an official. I can show you the tags. It's the official Spurs club shop. There you go. It's the official Spurs club shop. And talking to the man, there it is. The number 10 James Maddison shirt. That will be auctioned. So it will be like anything else. People will put their bids in. The highest bidder gets the shirt. I will send them the shirt. And the highest bidder will have to pay, and that money goes to the British Heart Foundation. So if anyone would like to donate, please let me know. And also, I did stick a link in an hour or so ago for a young lady. She's only 8, young girl called Rosie, who is trying to raise, her family are trying to raise just under 3,000, about 2,800 for her, for a machine that she's needed for an operation that she desperately needs. She's a poorly young lady. And if anyone would like to, even if people can chuck a fiver, I'm sure between us we can raise £2,800 for her. The link is in my YouTube community. You all know where to find it. Please go, and £5, £10, whatever. And just remember, before we all forget that and don't do it, just remember that what is £5 or £10 to you might be a beer, a coffee. It's the difference between this little girl's life or not. So bigger picture, let's see what we can do, eh? I'm sure, I've been told that she's watching. I got a video where she sent me a video earlier, little Rosie, and let's see what we can do to help. If anyone would like the link to that, please let me know and I can send that through. But I think we've already raised an extra 100 quid for them today, but we need to get that up to 2,800. So listen, that's that. But Big up to Rosie and her family. Yes, some people saying even in our system, we technically play 2-8s. Yeah. Listen, I won't get drawn into it. For me, he's a playmaker.
It's fluid, isn't it, these days? Football's fluid.
Yeah, for me, he'll always be a 10. He's a playmaker. He gets on the ball. He assists. He scores. I just love him. I think he's the best player at Spurs by a mile. Let's have a look at Man United before we come to your boys. Man United are in a mess. And I did a video about this morning. I wasn't being rude, but again, this is another year where they don't look good. I know it's only 4 games, but this has been going on for years and years. Another game where they don't look united, pardon the pun, as a group. You've now got the issues with Sancho, with Anthony, after everything that went on last year with Ronaldo.
And Greenwood as well before.
The issues with Greenwood. You had all the issues with Maguire losing the captaincy and Bruno getting it.
The sale as well.
Absolutely. Spent a lot of money. And it just seems that, and I can't believe we're talking about this probably a decade on, it just seems that since Sir Alex Ferguson has left this club, they can't quite seem to get it right. Yeah, they've won the odd trophy or whatever, but they cannot get this right as a club, can they? There's something not right within that football club.
No, there's something there's something wrong. I mean, look, we all enjoy. I mean, United is one of my favourite teams to see things go wrong, but like on a level and on a sort of honest analysis.
Charlie, that's only because we all grew up watching them win the league every year.
Yeah, no,
and now we're going, yes, they're not winning.
I can't lie, it's a little bit shameless, but still, like, I'm enjoying it. But on like a truthful sort of my point of view on it is that I actually think United have been pretty poor since the League Cup final. Since after they won the Carabao Cup final back end of February this year, I actually think they've been really bad since then. I'll be totally honest. I think for me, the balance looks totally off in that side. The midfield balance doesn't look right. Højlund's just come into the side. He looked decent on that little cameo. But you know, it's too early days to judge him. Do you know what I mean? I look at that team and I think, obviously, like my side as well, I don't know where the goals are at United. You know, unless Rashford's scoring goals, who's actually scoring?
And he really disappoints me, by the way. Like Rashford does something very good in a game, like the goal he got. By the way,
anything else.
Keeper should have saved it. And then the number of times United sprung that Arsenal backline and Rashford was through with teammates, and you're thinking, this is where the top players make the right decision. You either shoot, pass, or cross. And every time he picks the wrong decision. Every time.
I mean, look, I like Marcus Rashford. Think he's a decent player, but I wasn't getting carried away with the hype when he was on that purple patch banging goals. I wasn't on that train because, like, any player can do a purple patch. Do you know what I mean? Anyone can. I'm not discrediting him as a footballer, but you know what I mean. Anyone can sort of put a decent month or two of form together, bang a few goals. But whether you can do it on a consistent basis. Now he's not. Maybe he's not in the right setup to be able to do that. He's much better off the left than he is down the middle. But if Rashford's not performing, then Martial's not scoring any goals. Højlund's only just turned up. Anthony's not scoring. Do you know what I mean? Sancho doesn't even get in the team, but reportedly not training properly. That signing's been a complete disaster from the get-go, pretty much. There's just a problem. I mean, I look at them and they're just not playing well. I think like all this money they've spent in terms of whatever they've spent, but to be in 2023 and still end up playing Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire as your centre-back pairing, that's got to be like horrendous squad planning and squad building to be in a situation where you get an injury or two to a centre-backs and you've got to play Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans. Like it's I don't know. I don't want to say Ten Hag's in trouble because I don't think he is necessarily, but there are some alarming issues there, and I think the club is a complete mess from the top right down to the very bottom. You know, more statements going out than they've had wins this season. Every day you go on Twitter or wherever you get your news, there's another statement. Whether it's Greenwood, whether it's Anthony, whether it's Sancho, whether it's the Maguire stuff, whether it's whatever it is. And that, I don't know if you read that Anthony statement. Talk about saying something without saying anything. They've literally put that statement out. No one's really thought it through. They've turned off the comments on it on socials. And the statement just doesn't actually say, it literally is a load of words that don't actually mean anything. They haven't really explained anything at all. So I just think the balance is wrong in that side big time. I think it really is. I think Onana's a good player. The centre-backs, when they're fit, are good. Varane and Martinez, no issues there. Luke Shaw is okay. I don't rate him as much as others do. You look at the midfield. The midfield is going to be interesting because now he's had a year here, right? And he's got his signings this summer. So he has to make this work. There's no excuses. He wanted these players. Whatever you say about the Glazers, and I think they're a bit of a joke, but they have supplied him with the players that he specifically asked for. They got him Onana, they got him Mason Mount, they got him Rasmus Højlund, and they signed Amrabat on loan. I guess he wanted some cover for midfield, an extra body in there. Now you've got to go and make that work. I'm not saying the Glazers are great owners or anything like that, but they've given you the players that you wanted. You need to go and make that work. If you can't make it work, that's on you. And I look at United and I think, look, they weren't terrible. They weren't awful against Arsenal. They weren't bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of an away performance, they were millimeters away from probably winning that game 2-1. They were a couple of minutes.
Never offside for me.
Or they were a couple of minutes away from getting a 1-1 draw in a game they probably didn't really deserve that draw from. So we're talking fine margins. But at the end of the day, for me, mate, it's the same issues at United. Midfield looks massively unbalanced. Mason Mount is early days, but looks to be a problem in terms of, I don't think him and Bruno can play in the same midfield with just Casemiro behind him. And you're looking at, for me, Bruno Fernandes is obviously a good player. How many times, mate, does he disappear in big games? All the time. All the time, mate. That's your captain. That's one of your best footballers at your team. And you can't rely on him to step up in a big game. And not to mention their record away from home as well against the big sides. Awful. Absolutely. They got 1 point against the top 9 away from home last season. That was against us in our worst ever form of us. And the rest of them, they lost all of them. They started off with 2 defeats away from home this season to your boys and Arsenal. There's a lot of problems there. I'm not saying they can't sort it out, because they can. Things can definitely change after 4 games. United lost their first 2 games last season. Everyone was writing them off. So I'm not writing them off, but it
just doesn't look right. It doesn't ever look right there. So, sorry, I just want to quickly come to this. First of all, Claude Murphy says, Savva, where is my apology? It must be lost in the post. Please be a man up. I cannot forget the lie you told on me. You would lose subscribers. I wouldn't lose subscribers. I would lose subscribers. Now, first and foremost, yesterday when I was going through all of my blocked people on my community settings, I thought to myself, let's give Claude another go. I unblocked you. And the first thing you want to say after being unblocked is this: I could happily just block you again. I don't have a clue what you're going on about. So either join in with a football chat or we'll see you later, mate. It's not that deep for me. I don't know who you are. As far as I'm concerned, you're a troll with a fake name and no face. So I don't really care if you want an apology for anything. You ain't getting it. The only person I apologize to is my wife regularly. No, that's a lie. I don't all the time. But don't ask her. And what I would say is, guys and girls, please, the link I'm putting in the chat right now at 16:38, this link here, right? This link here, I'm going to show you what this is linked to. Please, 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 if anybody's got a spare £5, have a look at this, right? Have a look at this. This is for Rosie to raise money so that the Basildon Children's Hospital can get the machine that she needs that will be able to make her better. So look at that. There's £895. They need, sorry, if my maths works correctly there, they need what? 1,900 quid. Between us, there's 300 of us in here. If everyone could donate a £5, 2 quid, something like that. Come on, I'm sure we can get Rosie right up to that. So we'll check that again in 20 minutes or so, but it's for a great cause. The link's in the chat. It will take you to this page. Come on. What is £5 to me or you is nothing. What is £5 to this young girl is everything. Yeah, listen, the United thing is really, really interesting. It always is at Man United. You are a school teacher. God, can you imagine being a school teacher, Charlie?
Yeah, terrible, isn't it? Yeah.
I think it would be awful, wouldn't it? I think it would be awful. Claude, one more and you're off, mate. You've got a yellow. One more, you're off. Listen, Man United, let's go to your boys.
Really?
Yeah, we've got to. We've got to, mate.
No,
we've got
joking.
to.
It's all good, mate. Yeah.
And people keep liking, keep subscribing. Come on, we haven't even hit 100 likes yet.
Oh, guys, come on.
I know it's International Week, but come on, guys. People out here still busting a gut to get you content. Chelsea, I'm seeing fans. I know it's not you. I'm seeing fans talking about Poch out.
No,
and
mate,
the guys had 4 games as manager. I mean, if there was ever an indictment of 2023 and football fans in this year, it's that, isn't it?
Oh yeah, mate. I don't know if these people actually think that, or they're just doing it to get engagement because it's like edgy or whatever. I don't know, but I don't think any sane individual with a couple of working brain cells, and given the situation at Chelsea and all the upheaval and whatnot, can arrive at that decision that this is the manager's problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, the results are his fault. Look, don't get me wrong. I've been critical of certain tactical things that Poch has done so far in the opening 4 games. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I'm not calling for a manager to be removed after 4 games of the season. It's mad, isn't it? It's utter madness. I don't understand. Like, I don't know if these people just say it for the sake of it, or they actually believe that, or they just got no idea how football works, or I just don't know. Like, it's the same with players. Like, unless you come in and you make an instant impact, if you just unless you make an instant impact in your first 3 or 4 games, you're getting players written off as flops and a waste of money because they've not performed in 3 games. Like, this is like the world we're in at the moment. It's absolutely mad. But no, mate, I can't believe I've got to quantify this. But yeah, no,
I know, it's mad. Look, Charlie,
it's mad,
I think if ever a football club in the Premier League needed that you and Man United, if ever a club needed a period of stability, period of right, let's stop buying 15 players a window, let's settle down, let's give a manager a couple of years. Yes, we're going to go through some bad times, we're going to go through some good times. It's Chelsea. You have surely got to get to the end of this season with Poch in charge, because if you don't, I was just saying on Never a Foul, let's look at this scenario, right, Charlie? Let's say you get through to Christmas, you haven't got all the points you want, and the Chelsea board decide to sack Poch, right? Let's say Julian Nagelsmann comes in. I'm just chucking a name out. Nagelsmann comes in, and Nagelsmann turns around and says, "You know what? I don't want him, or him. I want to sign him, and him." So you sell another 5 or 6, you bring another 5 or 6 in, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, Chelsea have spent more money. You should be winning now. You spent 1.3 billion, right?" Problem is, all you're doing is constantly rotating players in and out, never growing, never building a team spirit, never building unity. No players get used to a manager's ethos. They have to now start learning to play Nagelsmann ball, even though it hasn't really got a ring to it. And then 15, 20 games later, Nagelsmann's not won all 15, 20 games. And all of a sudden, Chelsea fans are going, sack him. Let's get the next man in. Where does it end?
Yeah, mate, we got to get out of this cycle of, of thinking that everything's the manager's fault. I get that the buck stops with the manager at the end of the day. Of course it does. You can't sack the players, you can't sack the board or whatever. But do you know what I mean? Like, people just don't apply any context or any rational thinking to things. Like,
Welcome to 2023,
mate. It just doesn't exist particularly in football as well. Like, did anyone look? I certainly, as a Chelsea fan, expected us to have had a better start to the season than we have done. I looked at those opening fixtures and thought we should have at least one more win on the board minimum. We should do, but we don't. And that's the reality. We've actually, like, if you look at, I know football's not a game about stats, and stats can be misleading. But if you actually look at our stats, where I think Sky put something up for the first 4 games, like average possession, we're top of the league after the first 4 games. Where In terms of big chances created, we've created the most big chances in the league so far. Like we've not played horrific football. Yep, Saturday was absolutely horrendous, but you're talking about a couple of these. Well, and of course we've missed 11 big chances, which is the most in the league so far this season. But you're talking about we're talking about an Enzo Fernandez scored penalty and Nicholas Jackson not putting it over the bar from a few yards out, and we're having a totally different conversation about Chelsea.
Right.
Like, do you know what I mean? So, look, I'm fully aware that the performances have not been what we expected, but I'm also aware that this was going to take time and this wasn't going to click straight away because it's so many new players. But not only that, it's new young players. And one thing about young players, and this is why it annoys me when people get frustrated with young players when, oh, this guy was good 1 week, then he was crap for the next 2 weeks. That's what being a young player is about. There's going to be a lack of consistency. So I don't know why people are like surprised that young players aren't performing on a consistent basis. Young players need trust and they need regular minutes, and they need to not be hauled off the first time they make a mistake. They've got to be able to rectify that in game, and that's the only way you're going to learn. You're not going to learn if you're being subbed off the first time you make a mistake. This
is the problem now. Like when you look at all the best teams in the world, they're settled. When you look at all the best teams throughout history, settled. Partnerships have been built. Nowadays, because players are sat playing so much football, there's so much rotation, because there's so much hate, players are dropped after 1 game, 2 games. And what do you do then? Okay, Poch picks a different 11 on Saturday, and everyone will expect them to gel like that. At what point do we say, here's a bit of time? And unfortunately, I've said it all along, unfortunately, the 1 billion now, because that seems so sensational, and it is, right?
Yeah.
It actually clouds rational thinking. I don't care whether you buy, if all the players in your 11 cost 100 million or all the players in your 11 cost 10 million, right? They're still the same person, right? They're still the same ability. They're still human beings with feelings. And I've said this all along. Chelsea, when people are going, Chelsea must win a league. Like, what? Like, what are you, you know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? It's gone.
It doesn't work like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you boil it down to that sort of simple way of thinking, that means that the team that spends the most money every transfer window is going to win the league or win everything.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. As you were saying, mate, like we could have bought 15 new players in, right? And they all cost 100 million each, or we could have bought 15 new players and they all cost 10 million. It doesn't matter how much they cost. The fact is you have to get these players to gel together. So the cost is irrelevant in my opinion. Yes, you know, we spent money and there's always going to be criticism when you spend money. Of course there is. There's going to be an expectation that comes from spending money. But the volume of players that have come into the team, and this is not an excuse for not beating Nottingham Forest, because there was more than enough quality on that pitch to beat Nottingham Forest at home, and we put in a dreadful performance. Not shying away from that. But the fact that people think that, you know, when you've had upheaval from basically the whole club from top to bottom has completely changed in just over a year. Like, it's not even recognizable from what it was this time last year. Do you know what I mean? So, like, when you have that much change, yes, you need to get results and you need to get them quickly. But at the same time, there has to be an allowance and an understanding that we're going to play some shit games. We're going to lose a few football matches this season. Players are going to make mistakes. Some games will be good. Some games will be shit. Like that's what's going to happen. But unless we are allowed to make mistakes and Poch is allowed to learn about these players and find out more about them, and these players are allowed to develop as footballers, if we don't have the patience to and allow this to sort of, you know, develop as what in whatever way it's going to develop, we're just never going to win or never going to compete again, because we're going to be in a vicious cycle of sign a load of players. New manager comes in, doesn't do that well for a few games. Oh, he needs to go. Another one comes in. Oh, he hasn't done that well. And it's you're just on a conveyor belt of buy players, sell players, change manager.
But Chelsea need to stop this, right? So what Chelsea needs to, from my point of view, I think now when you go into windows, I think you need to go back to the model of 2 in, 2 out.
I think we will now, because we've rebuilt the entire squad. Do you know what I mean? So like this is obviously a lot of players coming in, but we've essentially done what teams might look at doing over 3 to 4 windows. We've done it in 2. We've completely changed the whole squad. So now, when
I think 3 to 4 is generous, Charlie. I reckon most clubs will do that over 5 years. To be honest.
So like when you talk about the spending, like it's mad, but it's only mad because of the proximity that it's been conducted in. I think now you look at Chelsea and like in the upcoming windows, one or two might leave, one or two will come in, and you're just topping up with that quality in existing areas. So you're looking at, like, if one goes out, one will come back in. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I think the sort of the big spending under Bowley that we've seen in the first 2 to 3 windows, we won't see that going forward, because the bulk of the transition of overhauling the squad has been done now.
Hello, Claude. I'm a Spurs fan. Hello. Big up to you. Yeah, listen, I think that's it. I think now, I think the Chelsea fans definitely need to get behind Poch. And listen, no manager can have 4 games. Listen, 4 games at the moment. Look, it's different at Spurs. 4 games, we're doing really well. We don't know where we're going to be in 10 games.
Well, the next 4 games, right, mate, you might have 1 win, and then the narrative's completely different. Do you know what I mean? Right. So, like, football changes so quickly. That's what people don't realise. Football changes really quickly. Like, we could be sitting on 1 win from 4, but then we could win our next 4 games, and suddenly people are like, "Oh, Chelsea look all right. They might have a decent season now." Do you know what I mean? Like,
Poch has done better because he's won 3 of the last 4 or whatever, you know what it may be.
It's difficult. Look, I said at the start of the season that I backed us to get Champions League football. I'm not going to change from that. I'm not going to flip-flop. I'm just going to stick by that. I think I believe in this team. I think this team is good enough. I think we've got the right manager. And I think we've got a good quality of players within the team. And I think eventually it will come good. I mean, Savva, you'll know better than me, mate. But when Poch first come to Tottenham, I'm pretty sure it wasn't great for the first few games. It took until about sort of November-ish time for things to start clicking.
Mate, I listen, I'll be honest with you. You're way off.
It was longer than that, was it?
November time. We were awful. The first sort of year under Poch was very hit and miss. It was, I don't know if anyone remembers, I'm sure the Spurs fans will remember, that there were lots of talk about Poch being sacked because it wasn't good. It wasn't going well. And then there was the famous game where Harry Kane, I mean, this was Harry Kane, like the beginning of his time in a Spurs shirt, scored a deflected free kick at Villa Park. Was it Villa Park? I want to say Villa. Somebody in the chat will tell me if I'm wrong. And yeah, and it went in, and then all of a sudden our fortunes changed. But listen, it took time. He had to get rid of Deadwood. He had to drill into the players. You've got to remember as well, all of these Chelsea players just joining at the same time. You can't just make 25 people meet each other over a year and go, right, go on.
Yeah.
Go on now. You're all best friends. You're all brilliant. It just doesn't work like that. And look, we'll move on from Chelsea. But by the way, it's comments like this, which I just find laughable. This is 2023. Big up, Jacob. I love you, dude. But Chelsea and Poch are dusted. Spurs fans have never learned. We've never learned. We talk like this about other clubs all the time, Charlie, whilst the other clubs win things all the time and we don't. And then we go,
whilst there's no League Cups, no trophy since 2008 or whatever.
Yeah. But we're dusted. Everyone else is dusted. And listen, do you know why I don't do this, right? Hang on. Hang on. We've got a little bit of fight. If your squad cost $1 billion, no excuses, you mug. If your squad cost $1 billion, no excuses, you mug. I mean, I'd love... Listen, the guy... I think the problem with people like this, and listen, he'll abuse me after this, it's fine. I've been called all sorts in the last week. Only 3 death threats last week, Charlie, so it was all right.
Mate, you're doing all right. You're still here.
Yeah.
Not bad.
None this week.
None this week.
None. Yeah, I haven't had to lock my front door once this week when I've gone to bed. It's been brilliant, mate.
Mate, it must have been nice weather.
No. The guy, you're not sorry for the mug part. You wrote it as you meant to say it, right? So let's pull it apart. The problem is the guy. The problem with people like you is there is a complete lack of critical thinking. Okay? Critical thinking isn't for everyone. I understand that, right? But let's look at this honestly, right? Spurs could go and spend £1 billion in the next 3 windows. Are we guaranteed to win a league title? No. Just spending money doesn't guarantee it. Look how much money Chelsea have spent. Look how much money Man United and Arsenal have spent in the last 5 years. Yeah? Are they winning titles? No. Arsenal have spent something like 750 million or something like that under Arteta.
One FA Cup.
They won the FA Cup in his first year when he just took over. Yeah. So all the money he spent, they're not winning anything, right?
But it's the thing, isn't it? Like, people
mad.
There's just a complete lack of understanding of how football works. It's like, spent big money, therefore means must win. Like that equals winning straight away. It doesn't. If it was that simple, you just spend a load of money, and the team that spends the most money, as I said earlier, would win everything. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that, Otherwise, you wouldn't. What's the point of having a manager then? Just spend money, and why do we need that? Why do we need a manager then? Do you know what I mean? Like, look, there's a complete lack of critical thinking. I'm not saying that the pressure's not on Chelsea and that we should have got better results. We should have done.
Yeah, of course it is.
We should have done. But at the end of the day, like, to think that this is not going to take time is like either just trolling or just a complete fundamental lack of understanding or just lack of thinking about how football works in this day and age. Like, no team, I don't even care if Pep was a manager at Chelsea right now, he'd be struggling. Do you know what I mean? When you have that much upheaval and that many new players and that many new youngsters, like the average age of our new signings, 20.5, average age of the new signings. We've got the youngest squad in the league now at 22 and a half years old. Like, there's going to be inconsistencies and it's going to take time to make that work. But at the same time, you have to pick up the results as well. I'm fully aware of that. But to start saying things aren't working or that we're crap or that pressure's on Poch. The pressure's on Poch before the season even started. The pressure's on you at Chelsea non-stop.
The pressure's on every manager, right? Let's be fair.
Yeah.
The pressure is on every manager. We've already had managers across Europe being sacked already, right?
Yeah.
We're 4 games into a season and managers have started getting the sack. This is the professional job of a manager. There will be pressure, right? And yeah, I know I must try harder. I know. If I don't get a couple more death threats this week, I'm not doing it properly. It is funny. My wife does laugh at it quite a lot. But listen, I just think big up to PTM. I said big up Savva. I got my first death threat yesterday for saying the media has an agenda. Big up to you. Well done for doing your job properly. Look, I just find it absolutely crazy that. Look, I look at it like this. If it was all about who just spent the most money, right, then everyone says it's Man City and it's not. No. Man United, we started this show by saying, look at Man United since Fergie. They're a mess.
But over $1 billion, no league titles. Nowhere near either.
Right. Man U have been nowhere near winning league titles, spent loads and loads and loads and loads of money, have no identity. I don't know about you. I don't see any identity. They have no ethos. No. There's no cohesion. And people will go, oh, but Chelsea have done it. Go. And I keep going on streams and having this chat with people.
Do you know what's annoying as well, mate? Sorry, is that like when people go like, oh, like, yeah, but Roman came in and spent a load of money in 2003 and then we won straight away. I'm like, football's so different. The Premier League back in the early 2000s, you could have picked the top 4 every single season. You knew exactly what it would be. The competition was not in the league. Other teams weren't as strong. And if you had if you spent a load of money, bought the best players in, then you were more than likely going to win because the competition just wasn't there. It just simply wasn't there back then. And the game's completely changed from the early 2000s. You can't just drop a load of money and now be an instant success like you could have done back then. It just doesn't work like that anymore. And people are stuck in the past and think things that happened 20 years ago should still be applicable today. They're not. The game moves on. Like,
Charlie, do you know the thing is as well? I think in back in the day when Chelsea got Roman Abramovich, you were the first. I mean, look, I could go
oil team. We were the first oil money team. Yeah, we were. It's fine.
I could go back to Blackburn when they had Jack Walker and he spent all the money, which is very different to the wealth in today's game. But Chelsea were the first oil team, so to speak, if we want to go down that route. Then Man City joined that group. Now you've got everybody spending money. So if an oil baron, for example, took over Tottenham right now, let's just assume, right? Let's assume right now Daniel Levy leaves. Please.
Qatari is coming.
If we think hard enough, if we really pray, it's like the film Big. If we pray really hard enough, it might happen. Let's assume that Levy and Enoch sold the club right now to oil barons or to sheikhs who own a country and their worth is 12 to 50 billion. I don't know, right? That's all well and good, right? And those owners come in, they could spend, Spurs can spend something like 500 million, Charlie, and still not hit FFP, right? We're so prudent with our money, right? Just spending that 500 million in one window doesn't suddenly make you better than Man City. It doesn't suddenly make you better than these big clubs that win year in, year out. It takes time.
It totally disrespects the coaching that's gone into it as well, and all and
Right,
all that side of
right.
things. You know what I mean? Like City just haven't arrived because they spent loads of money. The money's helps, of course. The money helps everyone, but people you don't like the work that Pep Guardiola and his team have done in the 7 years to constantly refresh that team, to constantly evolve that team. Like if it was that simple, like do you know what I mean? There would be no point in the manager. Like this is what I mean. Like people just don't understand that football's more than just spending money. Spending money doesn't equal success. Spending money helps with success, but it's only a small part of everything else that goes into it.
I think this is the key thing. Look, Man City are the benchmark for everything, right? Man City are. And in the first year when Pep turned up, I remember everyone when he got third. I think they just scraped third.
They came fourth, mate.
Fourth. There we go. Yeah. Fourth. Finished fourth.
Whatever.
1-0, and everybody, I remember everyone, because I used to say to my friends, like I watched Barcelona so much when I was growing up. I watched Barcelona all the way through Cruyff's era, through Rijkaard's era, through, do you know what I mean? Through all these eras, right? And I remember saying to all my friends, you watch what Pep Guardiola does over here. And all my friends, like proper West Ham and Arsenal fans, going, you can't play that football over here. And I was like, guys, trust me, this guy's amazing. You can't do that over here. After year one, told you, Sav, you're in the mud. All that nonsense about mud, which is good. It's why my skin is so nice. That won't work. What happened? Give him a year. Let them settle. What happened in his second year? Whew. Right?
Great. Yeah, title, wasn't
right. It? And what they've done over that 7 years, the youth team plays the same style as the first team. So there's now a clear pathway. You can pick players up from the youth, drop them into the first team. And there's none of this, do they know the system? Yes, because it's the same system throughout. The players that come in are all well planned out. The players that go are all well planned out with sell-on clauses or buyback clauses. Yeah, the coaching, everybody at that club knows who is the number one man at City. Everyone knows it's Pep Guardiola. Yeah. Everyone knows. Pep Guardiola invites players into his office. Sorry, you don't want to be here? No worries. Thanks for everything. There's the door.
Mate, he's got no problem. Like if a player doesn't want to be there, he's happy to sell them. He's not going to try and convince them to stay. Then that's fine. And that's what City is so good at, is that City have spent a lot of money, right? But they don't spend like ridiculous money on individual players, if you get what I mean. I know they've just spent upwards of 80 million pounds on Josko Vardiol, but you know what I mean? City have got no 100 million pound signings apart from
only Grealish.
Only Grealish. But that was a release clause, wasn't it though? So like, do you know what I mean?
They've got 3 signings, Charlie. They've got 3 signings that are more expensive than Spurs' most expensive signing.
Yeah.
Right, let that sink in. So what Man City are brilliant at doing is they'll go in there most of the time. Forget Vardiol. I think it was like 77, 78, 80 million.
About 100 million euros, wasn't it? So it's about 80 odd million quid.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you got Grealish at 100 million pounds. You look at everyone else. They're all sort of in between that sweet spot of about 40 million to 65 million.
Yeah.
Right. In that bracket that Guardiola likes. He doesn't go and pluck Mbappe. Right. Have you noticed he never goes and signs the best player in the world at the time? There's no Mbappe. Yeah, there was no Karim Benzema. There's no, there's not many great players in the world anymore. This is the strange thing. There was none of those signings. The players he buys are that next level below that he can bring in, mold, coach. And they fit into what he wants or see you later.
Yeah.
Now, my whole point of saying this,
like Julian Alvarez is a prime example. I think it was about 15 million quid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason for me saying all this, and by the way, there's 455 of you in here. Welcome to everyone from Carefree Lewis's channel. Smash the like button, hook a brother up. We've got 155 likes, which is really, really, really poor.
200 immediately, people. Come on.
Yeah, come on, 200 likes. The reason me saying all that, Charlie, is all of that was only possible because Pep Guardiola had time, right?
Yeah.
Klopp at Liverpool, yeah? Little dip last year. Everything at Liverpool. Klopp is the man. Everything at Arsenal under Wenger. Wenger, how long was he there? Ferguson, how long was he there? Even David Moyes, when Everton were really good under him. He'd been there 7, 8 years, right? Maybe longer. Now fans just think that a manager can come in on day one, a new manager walks through the door, and all of a sudden you go, right, there's the magic formula.
Well, there's no surprise, mate.
Madness.
There's no surprise that the teams that have been the most successful over the years have been the ones that have kept that have had their manager in post for the longest. There's no surprise there. No surprise there at all, mate. In the last, I think since 2003 or 4, no Chelsea managers lasted more than 3 seasons. That's horrendous. Like, how are we expecting to build anything when like no managers lasted? The longest manager's been 3 years in the last 20. That just isn't sustainable. And there's no wonder you're not going to build anything. Yes, beforehand you could just drop a world-class manager into Chelsea because the team was ready to win. And, you just needed a bit of coaching. Like that's why we could get away with that sort of thing. But now football's evolved, it's different. And you need time to get your ideas across. And you need time to coach these players. So, yeah, like that's what we need to do. Is he going to get that time? I hope so. I think the owners will give him that time, because I think one thing, what I would say about Bowley is that, yes, they obviously got rid of Potter, but that was more because of it become literally untenable with the fan negativity and the backlash and whatnot. But he kept him a lot longer than anyone else would have kept him around for. Under Roman, mate, he would have been gone before the World Cup. Simple as that. He would have been here a couple of months, and he would have been binned off. So it just needs time. It needs patience, and things will come good. But the reality is, mate, football fans, particularly Chelsea fans as well, no patience and no acceptance that the team is not what it used to be. And it could take a while to get back there. But mate, I'm confident, right? Chelsea will win again. We will win again. I just can't say when that's going to be. And I think that's the worrying thing for people as fans of the club, is that because we're so used to winning and winning synonymous with us, like we like not knowing when we're going to win again is a bit of a new feeling. But I think we'll win again in the next season or two. We'll be back up there winning regular trophies.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I stand corrected. Apparently, from looking at transfer market, Mikel Arteta has spent 688 million euros.
Oh, mate, 12 million out.
688 million euros. Whatever it is, it's a lot of money, right? The same way that Klopp has spent a lot of money. The same way Spurs have spent a lot of money. United have, City
Everyone spends money.
You've
got promoted.
Forest. Look at Forest.
Yeah, you've got Sheffield United coming up, spending £20 million on an Aston Villa reserve striker. Like, we talk about spending money. Like, newly promoted teams coming up, like Fulham that time, spending £100 million on players. Like, the money in the game is mad. So to say that, criticizing teams for spending money, everyone spends money. If you don't spend money, your rivals will spend money and you get left behind. Simple as that.
Yeah, listen, it's. I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. I'm not. I'm just saying that there's a lot of there's a. By the way, I'm just looking at Vardiol, and transfer market is saying that Vardiol went for 90 million euros, which was 75 million pounds.
Was that without add-ons? There's mostly some hefty add-ons in there as well. Probably it doesn't really matter, but yeah,
I don't know. Just it's a lot of money. But Jacob, listen, mate, I would love to think that, but I think Jacob, you're doing what a lot of Spurs fans are doing. Let's get through year one first. There's a huge difference between what anyone else does and what Pep does. The difference being that Pep has got an owner that will just completely say, what do you want, Pep? Like, I don't just mean money, but I mean who to sell, when to sell, what to do with the academy, what to do with training. He'll give free reign over to Pep. Will Daniel Levy do that? I'm not so sure. And what I'll ask, if there's over 450 of you in here, we are only 75 subscribers away now from the 11,000 mark. I'm going to put the link in the chat. If anyone would be so kind, if anyone's come over maybe from Carefree Lewis's channel and hasn't subscribed, that would be really, really appreciated. The link is in the chat at 5:08, which is right now. Please do. We'll get to a couple of comments. Where are we? Let's get to a couple of comments and we'll go for another 5 minutes if that's all right with you, Charlie.
Mate, no problem at all.
Perfect. Everton, somebody's made a good point. Where was it? Somebody said, look at the money that Everton has spent and they're facing
wasted, mate. Criminal waste of money, yeah.
Yeah, so you can spend money. It's got to be spent right and on a plan and on an ethos, etc., etc. Let's have a look at some of the other comments. Luton Dan has said, the less you hear about a chairman, the better the team performs. A lot to be said for that. Um, oh wow, John. Guys, let's not. Guys, can we? Come on, guys, everyone, come on. Let's all relax. All relax. It's football. Anything we debate right now isn't going to change anything that actually happens on the football pitch. We're just football fans. Listen, Charlie. Last thing I wanted to talk about is the is Liverpool. Liverpool, a lot of people talked about them being done. Listen, this is the thing with football fans. They're done. They're dead. They're dead wood. Chelsea haven't lost a game for about 16 or 17 in the Premier League at the tail end of last season and now this season. They're 10 points from 12. I mean, it's not all that bad at Liverpool, is it? As much as everyone thought?
It's not, mate. It really isn't. I mean, let's see if the Saudis come back in again and tempt Salah. I think they're probably going to go and bid again before their deadline tomorrow. I would expect that 200 mil plus bid to come in. Let's wait and see what happens with that one. But mate, I before the season started, I tipped Liverpool to come second because I actually think that the options they've got going forward are scary. They're like, you know, the guy like Diaz, Jota, Salah, Cody Gakpo, Darwin Núñez. Like the options they've got going forward are mad. They've got more than enough options. I think other than Man City, they've probably got the best forward options in the league, Liverpool. Easy is like definitely up there. I think the signings, midfield, McAllister's good. Gravenberch has had good potential at Ajax, not really pushed on at Bayern Munich, didn't really get the opportunities, but there's a good player in there. I think defensively they're okay. Van Dijk and Konate are decent if they can both stay fit. The fullbacks look decent. There's a very good outfit there, and you know it's not all doom and gloom at Liverpool. If Salah leaves, if Salah were to leave on tomorrow, like they're still good enough to finish in the top in the Champions League places, whether he stays or not. So, mate, I think Liverpool will be fine, and I tipped them to come second at the start of the season, and I'm going to stick by that. I think they're a decent side, mate, and they can just grind results out. Look what they did up at Newcastle. Like they played over an hour with 10 men, and they looked the better side for the vast majority of the game.
Well, and look at this. By the way, Jack London in the chat, mate, keep your knickers on. All right. I said it was 750 million. It's just under 600 million. Apologies. I was euros and all that. Basically, they've spent 688 million euros, which is just shy of 600 million pounds. It's still a lot of money. It's still a lot of money, and you're not winning things. So what it goes to show is money doesn't equal success.
No.
All right. Money spent well equals success. Having a plan equals success. Having an ethos, a structure, a top manager, all of these things. Let's look at Liverpool's fixtures as well coming up, Charlie. I'm going to ignore the cups just because I don't want to get into that. They've got Wolves away who can't buy a point. They can't seem to score goals. I would expect them to win that. They've got then they've got West Ham at home.
Should win that.
Followed by Tottenham away, which would be an interesting one.
Oh, definitely win that one.
Followed by Brighton away. Excuse me. Followed by Brighton away, and then Everton at home.
A couple of tough ones in there. A couple of tough ones. That Spurs away, followed up by I can't remember who it was now. But then those couple of games back to back there are quite tough. But there's some winnable games in there, and then I think they've got Brighton as well. I think it was Brighton and Spurs back to back. There's some tough games in there, but you know you wouldn't rule Liverpool out winning all those games. You really wouldn't. Just because you know they're a team that can put a run of results together, and you know I think a lot of people. I don't want to say people are sleeping on Liverpool, but you know I think people.
I love that phrase. I love this phrase has creeped into football in the last 2 years, isn't it? Like you're sleeping on them. I mean, you can't be sleeping on everyone, right? Like anytime you talk about a team, someone goes,
"Oh, sleeping on them." Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like somebody's got to be crap.
Yeah, mate. I think they're decent, mate. I think Liverpool will be right up there. I mean, as I said, I tipped them to finish second. I think they've got every chance of doing that.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Big up to Felix Concentral. Big up to you. You're more than welcome here, my friend. Smash that like button. Please subscribe. And listen, this leads me on nicely, Felix, because at the beginning of the show, I actually put a poll out that said, Will Chelsea qualify for Europe this season? And the options were Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, or no Europe. And here are the results, Charlie, for your Chelsea team. The results were as such. So far, 315 people have voted. And Champions League is 15%, 1-5. Europa League, 26. Conference League, 27%. And no Europe, 31%. So
people have not got faith.
A real mixed bag there in terms of will you, won't you get Europe. Big up. I already addressed this, Jack. Jack, it's not a big deal, mate. I've got, by the way, I'm not one of these Spurs fans who will just dig at Arsenal all the time. My point of bringing Arsenal into this was it goes to show that everyone's spending money. Man United spending more than anyone else in the last 5 years or the last decade?
The last 10 years, yeah.
10 years. And in the last 10 years, the 10 years before that, how many leagues and Champions Leagues they winning?
All of them.
Right, and this is the thing. Big up to Foxy, who has said, what did Charlie think about Thiago Silva? What am I talking about? Let's start this again. Big up to you, Foxy. Sorry. Blech. What did Charlie think about Thiago Silva responding to criticism on social media after the Nottingham Forest defeat?
Yeah, mate, good on him. Good on him. I don't know if you've seen it, so but there was some Instagram account talking about how we're playing this current system to carry Thiago Silva, and he's costing the side. Like, I'm slightly paraphrasing here, but you get the gist of it.
I get it,
mate. The stuff that people write online about footballers, right? It's like, to then be enraged that one of them's responded and actually put them in their place is quite something. Like, that sort of thought process from fans that think they can just say what they want without any comeback or without being put in their place or anything.
No ramifications.
No ramification. One, good on him for doing it, because we're not playing a back five, we are playing a back four with Colwell at left back, Chilwell left wing, and so great. I'd like to see more of this happening. More players responding to fans calling out and just chatting nonsense. Silva's been one of our best players since he signed. The guy's an absolute legend. His career is phenomenal. He's barely put a foot wrong since he stepped into the Premier League. And to suggest that he's the problem for the slightly poor results this season is a madness. So I'm glad he responded to that, because you can't just get away with spouting nonsense online and expect to have no ramifications.
Right. No, I agree. This is what I like. I mean, this morning somebody said to me, you're really rude to people online. I said, listen, if people come at me and go at me online, I will go at you back. Yeah. Right. Listen, I maybe I should ignore, but yeah, sod it. Listen, a comment here from Fox on the Hill Prince. I'm going to finish in 2 minutes, so we'll go quickly. I said, question for Savva and Charlie, excluding Spurs and Chelsea, which one new player in the Premier League has impressed you so far this season?
I mean, it's a little bit of a cop-out one, but I think Ward-Prowse has been class at West Ham.
I was going to say Ward-Prowse, and then I didn't know if you meant someone coming from abroad. I would say Ward-Prowse. I would also say, from watching Liverpool, I think Szoboszlai is a top player.
Yeah, he's a top player as well. Yeah,
he's a really good footballer.
He's a very, very good footballer. I'd go with one of those two for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of super chats here. Big up Roman Abramovich. Listen, Roman, if you're really in the chat and only putting in $10,
mate, Roman's putting in 10. He needs to remove that decimal point, doesn't he? Make that at least 1,000.
yeah. Sorry. Can we have a super chat in here right now, please, for $1,000, and I'll put it to charity. Big up to you, whoever you are, Roman Abramovich. Said new subscriber from Carefree Lewis. So big up to you, my man. Really, really appreciate that. Or my lady, depending. I don't know who it is. And much appreciated. Michael Gardner. Big up to you, Michael. Channel member has said, hi, Savvy, enjoy the chat. Yeah, listen, I'll forget that you spelt my name wrong, and just thank you. Yeah, really appreciate it, Michael. And if anyone did want to be a channel member, let me know. Thank you so much to Michael and to Roman Abramovich for that. Listen, as I said, just time for me to sign off with this. Thank you to everybody that's liked the show. Thank you to everyone that's subscribed. We're now only 70 subscribers away from 11K. So I'll put the link in the chat as you leave. If anyone would be so kind to smash that subscribe button to get to 11K by the end of the day would be amazing. Also, as I said, the 24-hour live charity stream for the British Heart Foundation, where we will be auctioning off this brand new official James Maddison shirt. It is brand new. You can see the tag still on there from the Spurs Club shop. And there it is. It's an official Spurs shirt. We'll be auctioning that off during the show. There'll be some giveaways. There'll be quizzes. I'm sure there'll be some crying, some laughing, best 11s, worst 11s, lots of fighting. But please join us for that on Saturday at midday. Thank you to everyone. Charlie, thank you so much, mate. Tell people where they can find you to go and subscribe.
Mate, pleasure. Thanks for having me, as always. Yeah, guys, you can check me out, Blue Brother CFC, as on the screen now. I'm sure it'll be tagged somewhere in the title or the description, so you can just click on down there as well.
It is.
Approaching 7K, not a million miles away. About 15 subs now from 6.3. So maybe if we get 6.3 by the end of today, that would be fantastic. But yeah, you catch me on there. Yeah, all the usual previews, reviews, collabs, all sorts of stuff, vlogs, whatever. You'll also catch me over on Chelsea Fan TV as well. But yeah, Blue Brother CFC is where you'll catch me doing my main stuff.
Cool. And anyone asking, the shirt is a large. Football shirts come out quite tight these days, but I thought I'd get a large because you'd rather it be maybe a tiny bit bigger than trying to squeeze dad bods into it, so to speak. So depending on your build, of course. So listen, thank you very much to absolutely everybody. Go and subscribe to Blue Brother. Thank you to whoever just subscribed to me. We're now 69 away. 69. What a magical number that is. After that, thank you very much. Much love, everyone. And as always, come on, you Spurs.